Chapter 4. As soon as Chairlies finished speaking, Delphier immediately knelt down. His body trembled, and he couldn't calm down. He bit his lips to stop himself from crying out loud. I died by stabbing my heart with the dagger you gave me. Quote. Have you ever thought about why I made that choice? Quote. The sound of my baby's heart, dying at its father's hands, was so loud. Quote. Looking back at the life I've lived, a life hated by your own father is insanely painful. Quote. You don't know how I felt when I chose to give up my baby and die. Delphier took a deep breath. His eyes were full of water. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You are the one who took the lead to shove me to hell. Would it have changed anything if I told you? No, there wouldn't be any change. Delphier grabbed Chairlies' ankles as she struggled to leave. Chairlies laughed. Wider than ever, the smile that he liked decorated her lips. I hope this is the last day I see your face. And then, she said the words Delphier hated and feared the most. Don't be happy, and don't laugh too. Just live your life in hell. Quote. Then, when time passes, and you forget everything, remember the reason why my baby died. She slowly approached him, who couldn't say anything. Then took out the ring off her ring finger. As much as the time they had spent together until now was meaningless, it was so easy to take the ring off. Chairlies smashed the ring to the floor. The jewelry that had been decorated on the ring was cracked. The cracking gave the impression that this was the end. Delphier. Charles. No. I'm sorry. Charles, please. He shook his head, denying whether he expected the words Chairlies would say. I didn't consider the moment I had spent with you as happy memories. Quote. The time I share the air with you is so disgusting that I would rather die. It's really over. Their relationship can't be reversed or created again. That's how Chairlies put an end to their relationship. As she went outside, her eyes met with Marquis Radiosa, who was waiting outside. Little Duchess. The letter of annulled engagement will be coming soon. If you leave our mansion like this, you and I will become enemies. I know that much. What Marquis Radiosa said was natural. He had a deep affection for Delphier, the child of his half-sister who was being adopted. Apart from right or wrong, Marquis Radiosa still became Delphier's father. I wish my father was like Marquis, someone who would give everything for his children. Delphier made her insanely envious. She wanted to have a family and parents like he had. Quote. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. May Goddess Ricina's blessing reach you, little Duchess. Marquis Radiosa said that and bowed his head. May the Marquis receive the protection from the goddess. She turned her head and passed him. Chairlies returned to the Duchy Marcetta and had no idea what she had been thinking about during the days she had spent for past days. She was just hectic, busy, and confused. The news of her annulled engagement spread out of control through the social world. Rumors, once proliferated, took the form of branches that became fleshy and deteriorated as they passed through several people. The rumor also reached Harbert IV, and it became an opportunity to have a private meeting with him. I see your majesty, the glorious son, the father of the Eleator Empire. Chairlies, how have you been? Harbert IV was the half-brother of Duchess Marcetta and made him Chairlies' maternal uncle. But looking back on what he had done, it was better for him to be a stranger. Harbert IV was the illegitimate child of the predecessor emperor, who had an eye on Queen Catherine, a dancer from the Principality court. Since there was no heir except for the descendants of several generations, Harbert IV was the heir to the next throne from the moment he was born. However, the birth of Princess Elizabeth from Empress Roxana pushed him from that position. The predecessor emperor loved her so much that he gave her the name of his predecessor, Elizabeth I, of the Eleator Empire. Even at a young age, Princess Elizabeth was a genius child. At the age of 7, she became the youngest disciple of Professor Hale, who is regarded as the living history of the Erlpire Academy. Princess Elizabeth has dark blonde hair that shines brightly like the sun's light, the symbol of the imperial family. In addition, Goddess Ricina's blessing turned the hearts of those who supported Harbert IV. Ultimately, Princess Elizabeth, born with perfect lineage, overtook Harbert IV's position. That fact was accepted easily by Harbert IV. He promised to take good care of her as her brother, and he didn't forget to relive the tensions of those who may have worried. On the day of the crowning ceremony for the crown princess, those who didn't see the appearance of Harbert IV misunderstood that it would end peacefully. Harbert IV engaged Illyriate, the only daughter of Marquis Rebrais. So, people predicted that Harbert IV would succeed the Marquis Rebrais, replacing the weak Illyriate. However, contrary to such a prediction, Harbert IV became emperor. He framed his 16-year-old sister for smuggling drugs that were banned from the empire. He took his sword and cut off the head of Crown Princess Elizabeth directly. He had already joined forces with key figures through his connections, Marquis Rebres, and took control of the palace. The predecessor emperor had difficulty even walking for a short time, so he already entrusted all of his practical duties to his daughter, Princess Elizabeth. He, who once went directly to the battlefield, was nothing more than a toothless tiger. When the predecessor emperor saw the box containing the neck of Crown Princess Elizabeth sent by Harbert IV, he immediately fainted. He couldn't wake up for days. What he did after coming to his conscience was to marry Princess Ekaterina to Duke Marcetta. He had the intuition that he couldn't guarantee the safety of his youngest daughter if he died. He abandoned all of his pride, who had lived his life as the son. For his youngest daughter, he begged the young Duke Marcetta as if he would kneel at any moment. What he asked for wasn't to love her but to protect her from the reach of Harbert IV. Duke Marcetta had a beloved fiancé who had already promised her a future. Their relationship was more than a political marriage. So, Duke Marcetta risked his life to reject Princess Ekaterina. Thinking that he couldn't change the heart of Duke Marcetta, who consistently refused even after repeated pleas, the predecessor emperor took the last step. He used the Pledge of Allegiance that the first head of the Marcetta family made to the emperor at that time. The predecessor emperor who achieved what he wanted was as if he had fulfilled the wish he had longed for the rest of his life. Shortly after Duke Marcetta and Princess Ekaterina had their wedding, he returned to the arms of the goddess Ricina. The family of the young lady of Marquis Luxon, who was the fiancé of Duke Marcetta, was involved in treason and destroyed. Duke Marcetta managed to find Lady Luxon, who disappeared overnight. The first thing he did was to make her live in the annex. While dealing with his piled work, he couldn't care for her for a few days. In the meantime, Lady Luxon ran away. Years later, he found her again, but the results were the same. Meanwhile, a daughter was born to Duke Marcetta and Princess Ekaterina. It was indeed a miracle for them, who were reluctant to even eat face to face unless it was the set date. After Lady Luxon ran away twice, Duke Marcetta became touchy. The servants expected that many things would change with the birth of the lovely princess. Sadly, Duke Marcetta, who missed Lady Luxon, couldn't be a good father to Charlize. It was the same with Duchess Marcetta. She couldn't believe her sister's death and the betrayal of her half-brother, whom she trusted. After suffering from the absence of the predecessor emperor successively, and even giving birth, she faced the crisis of life and death, and her health worsened. Charlize, who had the right of succession to the throne, had faced numerous assassination attempts at an early age, including from Emperor Harbert IV. Her parents didn't provide enough protection for her. It was Charlize's 8th birthday. She resented her father for not even coming to see her. At the same time, she missed him. That's why she took his handkerchief, which he cherished. She did that as some kind of rebellion act and because she can smell her long-missing father always away from the mansion. She was thinking of giving it back soon and had no intention of making trouble. It was only a handkerchief with sloppy embroidery. When Duke Marcetta realized that his handkerchief was missing, he frantically searched the mansion. He even searched through all the rooms of the employees who were sleeping. It was the first time Charlize was so scared to see her father. For her courage in telling the truth, Duke Marcetta inflicted an indelible wound on Charlize. The more she got ignored by Duke Marcetta, the more she was thirsty for his attention and affection. Charlize is also a human being. Insomnia and depression were something natural she suffered from. Could it be because she didn't receive the love from her parents, and her life was constantly threatened? Even at her young age, Charlize was cautious about trusting people, and she always doubted even the slightest favor. She was afraid of giving her heart and being abandoned again. Grew up as the heir to Duke Marcetta, where in this environment she had to rule over others, Charlize wasn't supposed to show her emotions, whether she was happy or sad. Her freedom was suppressed. At some point, she gradually stopped expressing her feelings. Therefore, no one expected her to develop a relationship with Delphire, leading to the engagement. Harbert IV was surprised that Charlize had a man whom she truly loved. Moreover, Marchioness Radios's mother was Countess Azel, who was related by blood to the Principality Modin. Harbert IV wasn't happy with their engagement, but when it was annulled, he felt ill at ease. Thinking that she might be scheming something, he called Charlize to the imperial palace. "It's a pity I haven't met you face to face since you became the little duchess." His words were so kind that it was hard to believe he was the one who sent the assassins to kill Charlize.